I now request Dr. Ashok Lahiri sir, member 15th Central Finance Commission, to please give the inaugural address.
Thank you very much. I had thought that I'll say Dr. Kumar or Mr. Kumar, then I realized there are three Dr. or Mr. Kumars in this. So I have to address them individually. Director and I are DPR, Dr. Kumar, Sri Vijayanand, Secretary Sri Sunil Kumar, and Additional Secretary Chandrasekhar Kumar. NI are DPR faculty and SFC members and guests and friends who have come from outside. I must thank NIRDPR and Director Dr. Kumar for inviting me, because believe it or not, this is the first chance I got to get to this beautiful campus. And I have been interested in panchayats and rural development. And this is an opening. I hope this is not the last chance I'm getting to come here. See, it gives me an opportunity. I'm going to be here till tomorrow because I want to hear from you who are involved at the local level, at the third tier level, about developments in local government. And I want to sit there and listen to the deliberations very carefully. Mr. Kumar has already pointed out the great diversity in SFC recommendations, in practices, and so on. So let me first start with the question that there are big fish. Why go after this small fish called local government? You can say that why don't you talk about the union government or the state government? Why bother about the small panchayats and local government? Now, as you know, many of you may know, or some of you may not, that I have a new incarnation now, but I don't come here as a politician. I'm a member of the Legislative Assembly of West Bengal, and that too, a rural constituency. So I have seen how panchayats work. So why do we focus on the local government level? I think the reason is twofold. If you ask anyone, where do you live? She will say Coimbatore. Or she will say Jhinaipota village. No one will say that I stay at the center or in the state. And the governments directly touch the lives of people at the local government level, water supply, roads, garbage collection, everything. So local governments are important because it is the most intimate government at the personal level. Second, there is a historical reason. In democracy, we keep talking about government by the people, of the people, for the people. I always get mixed up whether it should be by, of, or for, off, or by. So pardon if I have committed a mistake there. But you see, when it comes to the state level, when it comes to the central level, you elect an MLA, God alone knows what he does after going to the Legislative Assembly, or your member of parliament, no disrespect, but you have no direct control. But when it comes to the panchayats or local government, you are directly involved. The Gram Sabhas is there. In fact, Mahatma Gandhi was a great believer in local government. And he thought that there would be a partyless democracy where you don't even need the center or the state. Everything will be settled at the local government level. You may say that's a bit romantic kind of ideal rural communitarianism. But there was some force in that argument that if you want a government of the people, by the people, for the people, it can come alive at the local government level, at the panchayat level. And that's the reason, there are more experts here than me, in the constitution, the self-government word is not used in the case of union or the state. It's used in the case of local government. Because that's the self-government where you're ruling yourself. So, it is, we must, if we want democracy to prosper and if we want government to deliver the best result, we must make the local governments work. The local governments must work. Now, India is, we are unique in many ways, and I don't say that to justify the lack of progress, lack of development, lack of improvement in literacy, but I genuinely feel proud that among large developing countries, we are one which has sustained democracy right from 1951 or 50. Or 51 I'm saying because the first general election was there. Except for a small break, 19 months of emergency, we have sustained it. Now, has democracy delivered all the results? We know that we haven't made as much progress as East Asian countries or China. But not bad. We didn't have the great leap forward and millions dying. We haven't killed each other. We have built up our institutions, and we are slowly sort of gathering steam in development. So, democracy may not have delivered the best results so far, but it is showing signs. Similarly, in local government, I believe, though from the 73rd and 74th Amendment in 1993, we may not have had as much results as we expected, but it is settling down. I mean, I say that from my personal experience in the last 2 years. You go to a village, you'll find people talking about, this Gram Sarak has to go from this man's house to that man's house. Or they will say, there is some problem here. They may not be as vocal as we want them to be, but they are quite focused. They're talking about where there should be they don't say submersible pumps. In West Bengal, they use Marshall pump. Marshall, I think, is a company. They say Marshall. So, where that should be, they want embankment. So, people are speaking up, and I believe that Panchayati Raj institutions, municipalities, municipal corporations, there's a lot more that the third tier can do. And here, I'm aware of the fact that this institution and Mr. Sunil Kumar and the additional secretary, also the director, and Mr. Vijayanand, they're all interested. No, not Mr. Vijayanand. Mr. Vijayanand has got a larger mandate. He is SFC. So you also look after urban. But these three gentlemen here are very partial to rural local bodies. They're not interested in urban local. I'm sure they are, but they don't talk about it. So I say that it's working. Not to develop a sense of complacency. I'm not saying please rest on your laurels. Theek hai, sab theek hai. Nothing is okay. But at the same time, we shouldn't give up hope. It's a young democracy. We are progressing and we will progress. And in this, we have to increase the effectiveness of local self-government. We must empower them. We must empower the people. We must ask them to speak up. I'll tell you one example. You see, in my constituency, it's surrounded on three sides by Bangladesh. So there is this fencing, and you have to have I'm as an MLA, I can go, the BSF gives me a lot of respect. But if you want to go, you'll have to give your Aadhaar card, they will give you a permission, you can go beyond the fence, because the international border is beyond the fence, some 500 meters or 750 meters. So there was a demand that in that area they needed a crematorium. So I gave money from my MLA lad. I get 60 lakhs. So that crematorium was built. And when I went there, I found they haven't cured the cement concrete. I can't blame them. Those poor guys don't know. But slowly they will learn that when you build something in concrete, you must insist that the contractor cures it and puts water. I'm not giving up hope. I'm sure that over time they will learn that. So let us follow, let us focus on what should be done. Now, I must congratulate Dr. Kumar for the concept note of the institute that has been circulated, and I find that it has, as usual, and I am no exception, we always produce it at the last minute. It came at the last minute, so last night I tried to go through it, and it's very useful. It's very useful. First and foremost, what is the problem with SFCs? I'm one of you, so don't take it otherwise. I'll criticize you, but that's not, it's a constructive criticism. The first and foremost, Dr. Vijayanand, I must say that whatever little I know about Kerala, Kerala is one of the pioneers in local self-government work, so whatever I say may not apply to Kerala, but it applies to most of the other states. The third tier is doing too little. Now, the whole idea, if you ask any public finance specialist as to who should be doing the work, is what the European Union calls the subsidiarity principle. If it can be done at a lower level, get it done at the lower level, because they know the best. They know whether people need a school or a road or a hospital or a primary health center. Don't leave it to Delhi or the state capital, Thiruvananthapuram or Hyderabad. Now, the third tier is doing too little because of the problems of 3 Fs. What are these 3 Fs? In fiscal federalism, the 3 Fs are functions, functionaries, and funds. Now, as you know, by the Constitution, 29 functions have been delegated to the third tier. But it hasn't been delegated. See, and I believe we have done the right thing. We cannot supersede the states. At the central level, we cannot say in this state you will do this. We must respect the states. And I have full faith in every Indian. They'll come around and see the merit. Why? It should be delegated to the third tier. So there are 29 functions, but the states have to delegate it. You cannot delegate it from the center. Now, functions also, correct me if I'm wrong, I find most states have technically said yes. But what's the meaning of delegating functions if you haven't delegated functionaries and funds? And here, I'll give one example. And I'm not giving this as a recommendation because there are many things that have to be taken care of before we come to a conclusion. But the 11th schedule of the Constitution lists education, including primary and secondary schools, which may be entrusted to the Panchayati Raj institutions. Now, having lived abroad for a long time, I know in the United States, for example, the counties have control over the schools. Now, why should we? I'm not very convinced that a school in Namchi should be controlled from Gangtok. What do you know in Gangtok about Namchi? So, why not delegate? But there are problems. There may be capture. The Gram Pradhan may appoint his sister-in-law or nephew or son even as primary school teacher. So we have to be careful. But we need to have the discussion, particularly given the fact that there is the problem of teacher absenteeism. There is the problem of crony appointments. There is a problem of quality of education being very poor. The same is true of primary health center. I'll tell you, in my constituency, I went to a place called Hilly at the border. There is a primary health center. And I wanted to meet the doctors, and I went there and found there are two doctors. One is an Ayurvedic doctor, the other is a homeopathic doctor. Now, I'm not disparaging homeopaths and Ayurveds, but there are many ailments for which all of you here, your first call is not on an Ayurveda or a homeopath, but on an allopath. So must it be for my poor constituency people in Hilly that they must go only to an Ayurveda or a homeopath? I don't know. Second is the issue of funds. Both devolution of funds from the state level and generation of own funds. I was telling Professor Anjan Bhanja yesterday that I went through this concept paper and discussion notes, and I found Professor Taqiyuddin's paper very useful. Very useful. It has got a lot of very useful information. But one of the things that I didn't get, maybe I missed it, I looked at it in a great hurry. Maybe Professor Alok has looked at it. I'm very much interested in knowing that how much of the funds that the state governments give to the local bodies, how much of it, what proportion of it is what comes from the center through the Finance Commission award, and how much of it is because from their own resources. I suspect it will be very little, because as Mr. Chandrasekhar Kumar pointed out, that you look at the per capita devolution at the state level, the numbers are quite high. In fact, now I shouldn't say every dog has its tail, will be taken amiss, but now South India is showing us the way. South India is actually way forward, and the rest of us in the country should learn from them. You look at the per capita devolution from the state government level to the local governments, it's much higher in South India than in Northern India or Eastern India or Western India. So, see, the one SFC to another, also I was looking at what is devolved. Now, it could be a proportion of the divisible pool, it could be a proportion of the own revenue of states, it could be a proportion of the non-loan gross own revenue, it could be a proportion of the state's own taxes, could be a lump sum contribution to local governments. By no means am I suggesting that one size fits all the 28 states in India must follow the same principle. No. But we must know why we are doing what we are doing, so we must compare. And we must tell Goa, I don't mind Sikkim telling Goa, this works for you, but this doesn't work for us for this reason. Karnataka may tell Kerala, this is fine for you, but there is a reason. So we must have a reasoned discussion about which one is better, which one is not. And mind you, it will not happen overnight. Many researchers will have to work, and then only we will learn what should be working here. Now, the SFCs can prepare analytical tables of how local government mobilize resources in their relevant states, and the Ministry of Panchayati Raj Institution or National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj or even NIPFP can prepare comprehensive tables covering all the states. It's something like what Professor Taqiyuddin has done, but at a more elaborate level, and allows states to learn from each other about best practices. Now, in this context, I must say that we are human beings. I would like to get, now I am not in government service anymore, or any service, but we like to get more powers from our bosses. Our bosses are not as efficient as us, so we want more to come from us, to us. Neither are subordinates as efficient as us, so we want more powers from our superiors, and we want to give less to our subordinates. And the states are no exception. The states want more money from the center, but they don't want to give to these local governments. And they want to, don't want to give funds, they don't want to give functions, they don't want to give functionaries. In a democracy, ultimately, it will be the people who demand it. Because it has to be. I mean, you will get the kind of government that you deserve. The people have to demand. And I think it's happening. So you look at the panchayat elections, my God, what energy. It's also, there is a lot of money that can be earned. That's part of the reason. I find that as an MLA, particularly opposition MLA, the kind of money that you can make is nothing. But you can make more money if you can become the member of the Gram Panchayat or Panchayati Samiti or Zilla Parishad. But how do you stop it? You stop it by people being very more careful. I mean, I can be stopped from being corrupt if my voters say, you steal, next time come and ask us for a vote, you will never get it. So this will happen. And the audits and accounts, and in fact, I also want to learn, in the Central Finance Commission, we had said about accounts and audits. And I'm dying to hear as to what progress you have made regarding those. Because I can't think of a government institution which is spending taxpayers' money and not preparing accounts. In my village, I want to know, where the hell are you building the road? How much did you spend there? If I know, I'll create a shindy and you will not escape. Now, what is important in this context is own revenues. See, using someone else's revenues, what comes from the state or what comes from the Central Finance Commission, you are actually doing the job of a subordinate, agency function. You are like a servant. I have given you some money, you go and bring potatoes from the market. But if it's your own money, you go and decide whether you want to buy potatoes or you want to buy brinjals. So, own resources is very important for accountability and the accountability and responsibility. The only own revenue gives you a sense of ownership, that this is my government. And we know that local government is the government which allows you to combine the benefit principle with the affordability principle. Benefit principle, you can see your money at work. You gave tax and you can see your drain, sewer being improved or your road being improved. Without own resources, that doesn't happen. Now here, in this context, see, sometimes you have to push it from above. And that pushing has been done by the Central Finance Commission in terms of profession tax and in terms of property tax. I hope the SFCs are focusing on that. See, the professional tax, I'm not saying it should be limitless, but there is no reason why the limit should be 2,500 rupees, which was fixed in 1988. It was changed from 50 rupees to 250 rupees in 1988, and almost 35 years have passed. Much water has flown by the Krishna and Godavari, and it's still 2,500. Just index it to the, don't put a number in the constitution. Because if you put a number in the constitution, again you have to do a very hard job. It will be like pulling teeth, changing that number. Just empower the parliament to change the number, and the principle can be in line with inflation. And in line with inflation, if I remember right, this 15th Finance Commission calculated that the limit should be 18,000 rupees, 12 times. I don't see any move in that. Again, I'll be very suspicious if either the union government or the state governments are very enthusiastic. Because why should I be enthusiastic about money that you will get? Furthermore, the property tax and profession tax, these have not been devolved to the local bodies either, if I'm not mistaken. Some states have, all states haven't. Should it be devolved? Now, you may say that this is budgeting in times of fiscal crisis. But crisis or not, you must have the right principles. And the crisis is not only the union governments or the state governments, the crisis is also for the panchayats and municipalities. Now, the last but not the least are some housekeeping details. Now you violate the constitution with impunity. When it comes to Mr. Chandrasekhar Kumar had pointed out as to how we should have had 6 state finance commissions, but there are very few states, 9 he mentioned, which have appointed 6 state finance commissions. The rest have not. You may ask, बढ़ना क्या? नहीं करेंगे तो क्या होगा? Now, in a civilized country, if name and shame is not working, if you are violating the constitution and you are not ashamed, if you have to tell you कि फांसी में चढ़ा देंगे, I can't do that. I mean, you have to be a dignified lady or dignified gentleman to be ashamed of the fact that you're not doing what the Constitution tells you to do. Now, the Central Finance Commission, 15th Finance Commission, has recommended penalties. But I feel sad that gentlemen and ladies have to be threatened with penalties for not obeying the Constitution. Similarly, the state governments, many state governments do not accept the SFC recommendations, which is a pity. In the center at least, most of the recommendations, barring I think 1 or 2, have been accepted. These are good traditions. These are good precedents to set. Having said that, I must also say that the SFCs have also got a job to be done. So you will command the respect that you deserve. If SFCs are being appointed with people of questionable competence, and the reports that are coming are not that respectable, then this is inevitable. So there's a lot more to be done. The SFCs have to be appointed with a lot more care, on time. The SFCs have to give recommendations which are well argued, on time, and the states have to accept it. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure talking to you.